बोलो। Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Hi. Now it's visible. Yeah. So, do you want me to interpret in Hindi or English? Like, which
English.
language is comfortable for you?
English
English?
would work. Yeah.
Okay. So today, basically, there is an interview, and he invited you for this interview. Like, how you learned the sign language, and like, how was your journey? So there are 9 questions which he prepared for the interview. So basically, the last time there was some internet problem. That's why he couldn't post the live session. But now he will begin this session again with the same questions.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Pepper.
So first question is like, please introduce yourself to us, as there are deaf people who are watching you. Like, they want to know how you learned everything and about your journey, your introduction.
Okay, so I will be speaking in English because my sign language, I only know basics of Indian Sign Language. So I learned Indian Sign Language back in college in 2019. I only know basics of the language, but as soon as I learned the language, I fell in love with it and I wanted more people to know about it. So from there, I went on to start a YouTube channel where I started talking about the use of Indian Sign Language so that more and more hearing people can know about it and they can create an inclusive world around them. Apart from that, I also work as a social impact consultant. So I work in the social impact sector through and through with my YouTube channel and with my job.
Okay, that's great. He also wanted to know, like, introduce yourself, like your name, from where do you belong, and from where did you
Sorry.
get education, everything in the introduction.
Yes. Yes. Sorry. I'm Pragya Gupta. My sign name is this. I'm based out of Delhi, and I have been born and brought up in Delhi. I did my schooling, my college, and I also work here itself. And I learned and I studied from Delhi University, and that is where I learned Indian Sign Language from.
At Delhi University.
Yes.
Thank you for the like wonderful introduction. Now the second question, coming to the second question, as is there any deaf member in your family? Like any
N-
person who is
Uh,
deaf?
no, everybody around me is hearing. All of my friends and all of my family members are hearing. The first person who is deaf that I interacted with was my teacher back in college.
Now to the third question. The Indian Sign Language ISL, uh, like how did you meet like deaf people and how did the communication went? So have you ever met deaf people in while traveling somewhere and had conversation with them in sign language? Like, can you share
I
your
have.
experience with
I've had the first person I interacted with was my teacher itself. But apart from that, I have one or two interactions with deaf people. But this year, I traveled to a camp of deaf people. There were 300 deaf people there. I river rafted with them. I spent 2 days with them. So I had many conversations in Indian Sign Language, but I know very little of sign language. So I spoke very slowly. I asked them to speak very slowly also so that we can talk. But I also work with an organization where I talk to deaf people regularly. So I do talk to deaf people, but very in a very broken Indian Sign Language and very slowly.
thank you. I definitely will learn the sign language further also. Now to the fourth question. The third and fourth question are related to each other. Like he said that since you did schooling in sign language, you learned the sign language. So, is there any vision like have you learned the sign language and for yourself only, or you're planning to create awareness? Like you've made your YouTube channel. So, is there any more vision in this field? Have you planned something more?
Yes, so I've not done my schooling in Indian Sign Language, but I've learned only basics of Indian Sign Language during my college. Uh, there is a vision associated with Indian Sign Language for me, and that has started with my YouTube channel where I try to spread awareness. That's the first step. But I also work with an organization called Uniki, where we try to create where we create content in Indian Sign Language for deaf audiences. So that is the next step. That being able to work with deaf people for the deaf community. And we are also trying to work with people to create more awareness, to create an inclusive world. So I want to take sign language as forward as much as possible.
That's praiseworthy. Now, coming to the fifth question, the next question. Can you sign slowly because of internet problem? The fifth question, that as there are deaf people and hearing people too in our society. So basically, when hearing people speak, they do verbal communication, but deaf people deaf people too have sign language to communicate. But since hearing people have different mode of communication and deaf people have different mode, and hearing people think that deaf people don't know how to communicate because they are not aware about it, that sign language is their language basically. They actually call deaf people as dumb, but deaf people are not dumb. They have their language, that is proper sign language. So please share your views about it, about the communication gap which we face in the society, and like how hearing people see deaf people.
This communication gap is very real, and honestly, the first reason, the basic reason why this is there is because there's no awareness around it. Hearing people don't even know that there's something called Indian Sign Language, let alone the fact that there are multiple sign languages around the world. If they don't know that there's a means of communication, they won't be able to communicate, and that creates a divide. So that is a divide that we want to work towards. That is what we want to bridge and tell people that there is a means of communication. Only because it's differing than what you think of or how you converse, that does not mean that it's not the right way to communicate. Everybody has a different way of communicating, and being a deaf person, it is very sign language is a natural language for a deaf person. A hearing person can also learn sign language, and that can be a bridge between both the hearing and deaf people to communicate with each other. So I think that starts with the basic awareness and bringing people together on one platform. So that's it. I think it's just a matter of divide and lack of knowledge, and not about that somebody is thinking less about you. If they don't know how to include you, they won't be able to include you. So that's something that I think everybody should work towards.
You said it very clearly, like the point was appropriate. Now to the next question, the sixth question. So are you planning to learn the ISL like at advanced level or just with the basic level?
So I am trying to learn more of Indian Sign Language, and more of ISL through more communications is my target. I also plan to do some courses uh, now and then, but my main focus will be to learn more of the language by having more and more communication with deaf people.
So we hope that one day you will learn the sign language at advanced level and will communicate with us very well.
Yes, I also
And
hope
from
so
you,
too.
other people will learn. From you, they will be like they will get awareness. So that's great step. Now, seventh question, next question. As you are practicing the sign language and creating the awareness in your YouTube channel, so how did that thought came in your mind to create a YouTube channel for deaf people and to create awareness? Like you posted about the basics alphabet and that showed your love for the ISL. but you like you took the step to initiate the YouTube channel and to reach the audience. That was a great step. But how did that thought came in your mind to start a YouTube channel?
Thank you so much. I was introduced to Indian Sign Language during my college, and I also had not thought about that language before that. I did not know that there are different sign languages or there's an Indian Sign Language. After I learned the basics, I realized that this is a gap that we should work towards bridging, and this is something that needs to be done. Because no, I have only hearing people. At back then I only had hearing people around me, and interacting with them, I knew that hearing people don't know about Indian Sign Language. So it is that thought and that lack of awareness that motivated me to start a YouTube channel and to talk about Indian Sign Language.
As you told that you wanted to bring them together as like acting as a bridge for them, for hearing and deaf people. If people are not aware about the sign language, so they usually talk while writing on paper. They use paper and pen and communicate, and that becomes a problem for the deaf people also, because
Mm.
it is hard to communicate, right? So they use paper and pen and they write and communicate through that. He actually wanted to tell you like hearing people should also know the sign language, otherwise they will only communicate through paper and pen, and that will create a hindrance for them to
I
understand.
absolutely agree. I absolutely agree.
Because like if we see other people, they usually communicate while writing on paper and they don't prefer sign language. So that's what he wanted to present in front of you. Now the eighth question. Next question. It is related to Indian Sign Language, about the vision of sign language. So will you ever give up your YouTube channel or creating the awareness, or will you stand for the deaf people like forever?
There is absolutely no thought of giving up anytime soon. So this is, I am here. I'm here for the long run. I don't see an end to this.
Like maybe like you're posting videos on YouTube channel and creating awareness for deaf people. So the way you are doing now, will that एक जोश होता है ना, will that be there for like in the long run, or will it be like ये खत्म हो जाएगा बीच में?
There was a dip in that effort because of some personal issues, but now I've restarted again, and I'm trying to talk about more and more things, not only about Indian Sign Language but also about Braille. So I think the Josh will only go higher from here.
That's a great comeback. Like you came back to the field just for the deaf people. That was great. Now to the last question, ninth question. Actually, he was not visible properly in
Hmm.
between, so I just
Yes, no problem.
as you have the vision of taking sign language to an extreme level, but as there are two communities like deaf people and hearing people, and there are many people who are unemployed, deaf people. Can you see him properly? Like the video got stuck up.
I can see him.
As there are deaf people also who are doing job and doing their study. Have you ever experienced like the hearing people? They also have job, but okay, so he means to say that if there's a workplace, where there's only one deaf person who is working with the other hearing employees, so they try to, मतलब उनको नीचा करना. They don't uplift them, and that creates a problem. They don't get that respect, the deaf people in their workplace, and moreover, so so there are some hearing people who actually uplift them, but there are some people who try to mock them, try to insult them in that place just because they are deaf. Or they communicate through paper, by writing it down. But sometimes the deaf people are not that much educated, so they can't understand what they are trying to communicate through paper and pen. And so, have you ever experienced such thing? Have you ever saw such cases in your till this journey? आपने अभी तक ऐसा
Uh,
कुछ देखा हो?
so at this moment, I have personally not witnessed this happening because the organization I work with is very inclusive in their approach. I also interact with a deaf colleague, and they also prefer using Indian Sign Language. So we talk on video calls. But I agree that there are cases and there are people who create a divide, but I think it's not completely exclusive to hearing and deaf divide. Wherever there are two different communities, wherever there are people with two different backgrounds, there tends to be a divide, and there tends to be an exclusion, which is, I think, very human in nature, and it's not exclusive to the difference between deaf and sorry, deaf and hearing. So sorry, I think I mispronounced again, deaf and hearing. But yes, that is the divide, and that is something that we need to work towards, and we need to make people aware and push them to not demean somebody like that.
He wants to inform you that the further session if we combine the deaf people and hearing people together as one community, actually there are some signs which I also don't know. I am also learning, so I'm just clearing it out what he wants to say.
There's some noise at the end. Is it from your side?
Yeah, just a second. Now is it okay?
Yes. Thank you.
I'll try my best to interpret because due to the internet problem, there are some words which I skip.
Hmm, no problem.
He actually said that in your further like journey, like whenever you are planning to learn more about the advanced sign language, so as you will face two communities like deaf people and hearing people separate. But if but there are some deaf people who know how to write and read, but there are some people who don't know how to read the words written on paper. Can you see him properly? Like, was the video?
It's blurring in between.
Now it's better. Huh. Like, as there is hearing community and deaf community separated, so deaf people have their own language, that is sign language, as you know about it. I'll repeat again those lines, the way he'll speak. In the workplace, basically sharing the experience. Like if you're working in this field, so please make sure like the people may get aware about this particular thing, that in the workplace basically hearing people should not avoid the deaf people. They usually give loads of work to the deaf people thinking that he can't speak or he can't hear, and they try to take the advantage of that situation. And somewhere they communicate through writing on paper, and that doesn't make the communication good between them. So when you're awareing about it to the deaf people, so please aware about this also. He just wants
I
to
will.
add up to the point.
I will. I will.
Thank you. And sometimes the deaf people don't have like the moral values or moral ethics on how to behave. So we should teach them, like because they haven't got education that way. The hearing people got. So it's our responsibility to teach them on how to work in a cooperative world instead of insulting them, or like for example, to connect with any deaf person, the hearing person also should take the initiative, like to do a bit actions, because actions can also be uh, used in place of communication. They can also write on paper, but they should not avoid them in the workplace, or they should not make fun of them. But when they take the initiative, then everything will go well with the deaf person also. There will be no difficulty while communicating. And if the hearing person, even for the deaf people also, they should not pressurize hearing people that please communicate with me in sign language only, otherwise I won't communicate. This is not the way, because gradually we will learn with the process. So the message is for both the hearing people and deaf people both, that we have to make a better understanding together. Actually have experiences in his workplace, in his job, so they usually communicate through actions, and he worked with the hearing people there. So through the expression, through the action, they communicate.
Yes, in this case,
So this is
that
how
is
they used
true.
to communicate his experience.
In this case, the communication might be slow, but will still be there. It's always important to try to talk to somebody rather than excluding them. I completely agree with that. And inclusion is also both ways, as Webber also pointed out. It is both ways. It is both the responsibility of deaf and hearing people to include everybody. Only one person cannot do it. Everybody has to come together.
That's the point. Yeah. As you told that the efforts should be from both the sides, that was really a good point. Now, like all the questions are done, and you answered all the questions very clearly,
Thank you.
and the people who were watching here, the audience, they all knew about you, like you are trying to create awareness for the deaf people, and they're also getting to know that you are hearing, you're not deaf person, like you are hearing and you are trying to create awareness for the deaf people. So it was really great that you came here and you joined us and told us about yourself. The live session is basically like a seminar only, like we are present in a hall and everyone are watching us. So it's the same thing, the interview.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Like as we sit in the auditorium and there we have an interview, it's the same way we conducted here online in Instagram. So thank you for joining. So if anyone have any question, then please come up with the questions. He's telling the audience that please ask the questions from the topic itself. Don't ask anything else. Just stay on the topic about the awareness. So if anyone has any question with you, please come up and ask. Please come up with the questions. If you have doubt, then only do come. He is facing some technical problem. So he's asking us to join the session again as there is technical
Okay.
problem. Just a second.
All right, I'll drop them.